Howdy, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch 8.12 patch notes for League of Legends. So if you want to find access to this Google Doc, you can find it in the description, and I'll also have timestamps so you can jump around to your favorite parts. There's not that much eventful happening on this patch, to be perfectly honest with you. There are some useful things, but I think there are so many other things that are shifting around right now in the meta that I think that these patch notes are going to get overshadowed a little bit, but we'll go through them. There will be some useful things. Be sure to check out the other video that I have going on right now, which is the alt bot, which doesn't have a lot to do with this specific patch notes changes. But I'm just releasing that. It's uploading now. It should be ready in about 20 minutes. So by the time you watch this video, that will already be there. So check that out on the channel. That'll talk about why people were running things like Mordekaiser bot, Yasuo bot, you know, Ornn bot, all of that kind of stuff. I did a lot of research and I spent a lot of time writing that one. That's what's really going on right now, and that doesn't have anything to do with what's coming out on 8.12 because it's already happening on 8.11. But it's very under-researched, under-explored, and so I try to give you some really good answers to that, and that's what's changing the landscape big time. I'd say that this is definitely number one, is what's being shaken up bot lane. Then also, to a secondary degree, sort of what's going on mid lane with, you know, running a support mid lane and then sharing the jungle, giving all the CS in the mid lane to the jungler. So basically running two supports, right? You're running one in the bot lane and then one in the top lane. Or you can run two fighters down low and then run one support in the mid lane. So there are a lot of different options. I'm not going to go into all of that right now in this video, but check out my alt bot video that's going to be there, and then I might talk about the mid lane strategy as well in a separate video, but I'm just going to be focusing strictly on the patch notes for this one particular video. So let's go ahead and get in here. So the most notable thing that's going on in these patch notes is what's not going on, which is that they aren't adding the new Atmas or the Spear of Sojin, and they're not changing Hydras on this. So that's the biggest thing, right? So this is why it's very important that you get your patch notes information from somebody who actually reads the real patch notes and doesn't just publish a video up 3 days before the patch notes come up and call it, this is what's going to be good, you know, in patch 8.12, because people don't know. You don't know what the patch notes are until they get released, right? And so there's a lot of people that made videos like this. I won't name them. There are a lot of YouTubers that have done all caps videos about this, and there's no Spear of Sojin on this. There's no new Atmas on this. So that would have been very game-changing if it was on this. It would have made Irelia, who's already strong, way over the top, and other champions like Renekton and Darius, all these other fighters would have gotten a lot better with those items. But it's not here. So it was on the PBE, but, and I did talk about it in a PBE video last week, and I said it was a PBE video. It's not happening. So it says, if you were watching the PBE this patch, you also saw some item changes to help fighters. Now we've taken it out. We're holding off on these changes because until the dust clears, fighters look really strong right now. And I think that's a very smart call by them, because they are. They definitely are very strong right now. So that's the most important thing, is that that is not in this patch. Okay, so they don't say whether or not it's coming back in patch 8.13 either. They just say they're shelving it for now because basically Irelia and company are too strong. So I know Hashinishin's going to disagree with me, as he always does. I mean, not me personally, but he just always says, fighters are too weak. Irelia is really weak. What are we supposed to do? Jax is so weak, or Renekton's so weak. Or he'll like define them in different ways. Say, well, I'm not really talking about Jax and Renekton. I'm talking, they're different types of champions, you know, all this. Whatever you want to call them, bruisers, fighters, tanky things that do a lot of damage, that are very difficult to deal with, is what it is. So things that get free defense that also do a ton of damage are problematic right now. Okay, so that's Irelia, that's Renekton, Darius, Camille, all of these champs are a big problem. Okay. So, what is going on in this patch then? Alright, well, Elise is getting a few buffs, which is nice. She's getting some extra movement speed, and her Volatile Spider is doing a lot more base damage. Well, not a lot more, but a decent amount. You know, not a ton, because this is the last thing you max, I believe. It might... No, you max your W second. It's been so long since I've played Elise, or even seen an Elise. You max it second, so... Excuse me. It's pretty good power spike into the mid-game. Now, she did get some buffs, last patch as well, and I think you might start seeing Elise because it's becoming a much more early game right now. So we're seeing Graves and Zen, but Elise is particularly good at diving towers early because of her E, and I think that that is definitely a real possibility, especially with these lanes that have a lot of damage. Like you've got Alistar plus Yasuo bot lane, or you've got like Vladimir plus, you know, some other damage dealer at Fiddlesticks or something bot lane. So I think that Elise is definitely coming back into vogue, and you know, her hard CC with that web is very, very helpful. So I'm not saying she's going to be like the #1 jungler right now. I'm just saying that she is definitely on some radars, I think, especially in the professional scene. And I said that she should start being on some radars soon. I think that, I don't know the exact numbers, but I feel like she can duel Graves. If she gets the web hit, she can fight him early because he doesn't get resistances to physical. He only gets he doesn't get resistances to magic, only physical, off of his true grit, which is something they nerfed a long time ago to specifically to make Elise good against him in that meta when they nerfed that. So I would not be surprised to start seeing a bit more Elise in pro and challenger level play, but she's still probably going to be bad in lower brackets. So I think she's pretty good. Like, her problem is she just doesn't have a very good rune. I mean, I guess you can take Electrocute on her, but she's a good AP option in the jungle. I still think Talia is going to be the best AP jungler, and that's something I really didn't see coming. That's something I didn't predict last patch. Well, I couldn't, because they just nerfed her, and then they buffed her, hotfixed her, like, a day or two later, and gave her all these crazy buffs. So she's very good. Talia is very good because they took away the monster. Like, you used to only do 60% damage to monsters with your Q, I think, and now it does the full 100%. So she shreds camps really fast, and she obliterates Baron. I had a Talia on my team a couple of days ago, and she just, like, erased Baron after she had, like, 4 items with her Qs. It just does so much damage to monsters. So she has super good clear. She's very fast. She has good CC, good AP scaling, good burst damage, good poke. She's great. So I think Elise is definitely a top-tier jungler right now. Okay. Ezreal loses 3 armor, whatever. You know, if you're a good Ezreal and they, you know, hotfix nerfed him, like, his attack speed, so he's worse in, like, all-ins when he has to actually auto. I think he's pretty weak right now. Definitely, like, under Diamond. I think he's pretty awful. He's so bad early game when he just has tier, and you're just not going to have time to scale up as much in this meta. So, like, you could maybe play him, but I think he's still tier 2. Like, if you're god tier, if you're like Uzi or something and you're playing him professionally, yeah, he can still work, but for normal people, I don't think you can, I wouldn't recommend him. Hey, thanks 1% of Vengeance, I appreciate the sub. If you like this video, by the way, and the content on the channel, that reminds me, be sure to like, subscribe, you'll get notifications. I'm constantly pouring out more and more new content. I focus a lot on support, but I do other roles as well. And come check us out for a live stream sometime if you want. It's just 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a ton of fun. And yeah, just a lot of content. Be sure to check it out, The Strategy Professor, on YouTube. And then check out the live stream. If you sub, it's on YouTube, which is when we stream. 9:30, and then if you subscribe to the channel, it'll let you know. It'll give you a notification when we're doing it, but it's usually around 9:30 almost every night. Okay, Kindred. Good buffs. It's just, it's not the meta for Kindred. Like, it requires her, it takes time for her to stack up these buffs. People are playing very aggressive early game junglers. They will deny these buffs to you because you're really weak until you get them. Often early on, like Xin Zhao, Graves, Elise, Lee Sin will all come and fight you for these. They won't let you have your camps, and you just get shut out if you're not able to get camps early on. And then also itemization is really bad on her right now. It just is not a good alternative build to building crit on her. Like, you could try like a Blatherin King build maybe, but so her itemization is just awful. I wouldn't play her. And then her ultimate is just like for stalling out fights, like in team fights. It's just not where you want to be in this meta, so I wouldn't recommend playing her. Although this is nice. That's quite a bit of extra damage on the E's. That's good, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll be enough. I don't see it. Lee Sin, however, I think will be pretty good, especially at Challenger and maybe pro level play. I think we could see Lee returning. Not because of these buffs necessarily. This is good. You know, a little bit more mobility, a little bit more damage, especially early on. This just because games are a lot faster, and Engage is at a premium right now. So Lee has very good ganks early on, and especially around level 6, he can have really good playmaking potential with his kicks. So games are ending, you know, a lot of games are over in 25 minutes or less, and that's when Lee starts falling off. You know, once he has to get like his 3rd item or something, he really falls off. So I think if you're a good Lee player, I think this is a good meta to be a good Lee player in. For once, he might finally be coming back. So yeah, we'll see, but this definitely helps, and I think the meta being so quick makes him a lot more viable. Because he's always been good early game. It's just like, well, what do you do at like when it goes past 25 minutes and the enemy jungler just outscales you? So I think that I think he definitely could be useful, especially because Engage is at a premium. People aren't playing Engage in the top lane or mid lane that often, so that's helpful. Poppy's an interesting one because, and I do have like patch notes for this, but I'm just kind of going down and just giving you my thoughts as well. Poppy's interesting because her kit, specifically her E, I think it's her E, no, it's her W, the little circle thing around here, is very good right now in this meta because like most champions have some kind of mobility and dashes. And that's what makes them strong, specifically champions like Yasuo, Rakan, if Lee comes back, Irelia. You know, a lot of these champions need to be able to dash around to function. And so she shuts that down pretty well. She's naturally pretty tanky. I think she just doesn't have enough numbers right now. I think her numbers just aren't modernized enough to move the needle on her. We'll see. I know that Scott loves her on the channel, and you know, I love you, Scott. It's great, but I'm gonna have to disagree with this one. I mean, she can be really fun. I just don't think she's gonna be that strong in a lot of situations. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Let me look at her numbers here real quick. You know, she still gets a shield. The buckler did. Time did get reduced a little bit, which is good. You know, that's at later levels though. 8 seconds. It's still gonna be the same thing early on, basically for the first 12 levels of the game. They did give her 10% extra physical damage, which doesn't matter that much. I mean, you could go Triforce on her, I suppose, and that would help out a little bit. This is old school what you used to do with her. Is you know, she was back then. That's the thing, is she's just kind of outdated because back then she was like the OG Triforce user. It's like her and Jax and like Irelia, but I feel like other champions like Camille and Fiora and Irelia, even Jax to an extent, have been powered up over time, and she got depowered several patches ago. So Steadfast's presence is good. It has a really long cooldown. This is usually what you max, like usually last, I think. So it's going to be like on a 24-second cooldown. This just isn't enough damage. If you do get a stun into a wall, that's quite a long stun duration, which is nice. Keeper's Verdict has a really long cooldown for some reason. I don't know why it's 140 seconds. They did make it to where people can get targeted when they're knocked up, which is good, but they lowered the knock-up duration. I don't know. I think she's interesting. I think she definitely has some, interesting strategic elements to her that are unique with her wall pinning. I mean, that's very good with Ornn. That's very good with Trundle, who are both very popular in the pro scene right now, being able to tackle people into those walls. Jarvan's not really in the meta anymore, but it could be good with a Jarvan. So if you have people that generate terrain, like maybe that gets a bit more interesting. If you pair Poppy with like an Ornn bot lane, that could be interesting. You know, Ornn knocks them up, and then you pin them into the wall, and then you put on your E so they can't dash away. Like, I can definitely see the potential with some very, very niche comps where you might see Poppy again, but I think she'll be a rare pick. I think she'll be rare. She's, like I said, she's very good against things like Yasuo and Rakan. So I'm hoping she doesn't come back a lot because I really like playing Rakan, but I could see some niche situations where you might see her a bit more. Lowering the cooldown on Hammer Shock is also pretty relevant. I think if she does come back, it'd probably be as support. I mean, she does shut down Alistar Engage also if you're fast enough when he tries to go in. Alistar is going to be really popular as support on this patch. I could see her as kind of like a new age sort of Morgana type of thing, where it's like she's very, very good against certain types of picks. I just think that like Morgana herself can do kind of what she does against most champions. Maybe not against like Yasuo. I don't know. Like you might. It's hard to say. You might see her. I'm just trying to envision like which items it would be and like how you would play her. Like the W is awesome. It's just like the Q is such a low range ability. She has no poke in lane. Her E is very good, but it's very conditional. You need the terrain. Keeper's Verdict is good, pretty high skill cap to use correctly if you use the full charge up. So, maybe. I'm going to say maybe. Maybe high tier 3 or low tier 2 on support. I don't see her being top lane. I just don't think she can keep up with Conqueror champs or in the jungle. So if you do see her, I think it would be in the support role. As a specific counter to some of these things that are showing up bot lane that are very popular, like Yasuo, Alistar, and maybe combined with something like an Ornn. Okay, so Rumble is getting a couple buffs. I don't think it's going to matter. Like, this doesn't fix Rumble's problems. His cooldowns are too strong. Like, it takes too long for the cooldown now. I think they changed his Q cooldown to, like, 10 seconds or something, didn't they? That was kind of the nail in the coffin. Like, we saw Rumble every now and then, and he was kind of relevant sometimes. And then just out of nowhere, they just gutted him. Several patches ago. Yeah, 10 seconds is obscene. Like, you can't have that. Because you're not going to be able to get your heat up. Like, I played like 700 games of Rumble back in Season 2, and he's a bit different now. He's a lot different now than he was. But one of the core components is you need to be able to stay in the danger zone. With his heat, and he was just like, you constantly harass and you stay in the danger zone a lot of the time. And he's a lot of fun, but I don't know. I haven't played him in a long time, but 10 seconds on your major harassment tool, and that's what he's all about, is harassment. It used to be 6 seconds, I think, at all ranks. I don't think so. I don't think he's coming back. A little bit more damage is good, but... And also, he's like best in a teamfight meta where people are just getting, like, with Jarvan specifically, where you can hold them still and just have them sit in your ult, and that's just not where we are right now, I don't think, in this meta. So, he's okay. I love him, but I just don't think he's, And he's real easy to gank top lane, too. I just don't think he's that great in this meta. Now, Sejuani, these are some really interesting changes. So, they changed around her passive, 10 to 20% against monsters of the target's max health, max of 300. Icebreaker targets, enemy champions, and epic monsters. Enemy champions. Epic large monsters, super minions. Okay, so E. Freezable targets. Enemy champions, epic large monsters, media monsters, super minions, and siege minions. Okay, so you actually can permafrost siege minions and super minions. Okay, I guess that's kind of nice. And there is no non-champion cooldown, so you can just spam this on those targets, and it's 300 every time that this works. So I'm not sure. I think that's a buff to her damage to neutrals. I think she takes dragons and barons a lot faster because it's 300 damage. Instead of 400 flat with like an 8-second cooldown on it, now it's 300 against Baron with no cooldown, basically. So just anytime 4 people auto-attack Baron, melee attack Baron, then you get 300 extra damage, pretty much, if you just spam your E on them. I'm pretty sure if you have like 3 melee champions on your team, 2 or 3 melee champions, in addition to Sejuani, that's just going to crank down dragons and barons pretty quickly. Now, this is the big change here, is they're changing it from 80 mana to 65 mana. That's a very big deal. This is going to allow you to have some pretty nice wave clearing lane if you max your W first, which I think is standard for lane Sejuani. And then you get basically a 0.8 AP ratio if you hit them with both ticks of this. So, that could be pretty decent. I mean, a 0.8 AP ratio. Let me pull her up here real quick. Well, I said this wasn't going to be a very long video. Now it's transitioning there. So yeah, so now she's got a 0.6. I'm not sure if this is updated or not for the patch. Oh, her W got it. That's right. So it's a 0.8 on this, a 0.6 on her E, a 0.4 up to a 0.8. So she kind of has some low damages. I don't think you would build her AP. I mean, you could try building like a Haunting Guise on her or a Leandries on her, but I think that would be pretty goofy. Maybe it would work. I mean, the spell pin does work very well with base health. But I think you would still build her like just like Zeke's Knight's Vow kind of stuff. I think that I don't think you're gonna see her in the jungle really, but it's possible you could see her bot lane because there's so many melee champions running around now. Basic attacks from nearby melee champions and all of this other stuff applies Frost. So I think that's going to make it a lot easier to ice somebody in fights, to ice a bunch of different people in fights. Now, it's possible you should just play something like Braum instead if you want this kind of effect. Might be more efficient. Braum has to auto them or hit them with Qs first to get it started, whereas this just works automatically with the permafrost. And Braum works with ranged stuff, whereas this has to be melee. But the thing is, she has really good engage with Glacial Prison. It's very long range, good, solid, pretty reliable engage if you hit people with it. And she puts out a lot more damage than Braum does. Like, when someone procs Braum's passive, I don't remember how much damage it does, but it's certainly not, you know, like 15% of their max health at level 11. So, I could see her maybe being played in some bot lane capacity, you know, with Zeke's and Knight's Vow. She's tanky. She has pretty good engage with both her Arctic Assault, if you slow them, and then put the permafrost on them, and also with her R that's on a pretty low cooldown. So, she's a good Zeke's user. I mean, anyone that has an R that can start a fight and stick to people, like Rakan and things like that, they're going to be great Zeke's users. So, I'm not saying she'll be like tier 1, I don't think, but I think that there's a world where she's possible to get picked into some comps, especially if you run like a Yasuo or something bottom. I'm pretty sure that if you Arctic Assault somebody, it knocks them up for 0.5 seconds, so you can Yasuo ult off of that. So it's not as obvious, like it's like an Alistar engage, but it's pretty helpful. And she's just naturally pretty tanky too, which is good. So, I mean, I could see a world where Sejuani becomes a viable support. I mean, I could even see her maybe tier 2. Yeah, I think Sejuani's very interesting. Probably the most interesting support thing going on. Potentially on this patch, we'll see. Yeah, Talia just talked about it. She's not really getting a lot of changes here. You know, they're nerfing how much damage she does to champions by a little bit. On the secondary rocks, basically they're knocking 10% damage off of her Q. Which is fair. She's overpowered right now in the jungle, so I think that's fair, but that doesn't affect her clear speed or her ability to take Barons or Dragons or anything like that, so I think she'll be fine. She still does a lot of damage to champions. Yorick, I mean, they're lowering his cooldown a little bit at later levels. I don't think it matters. Like this, I'm not really sure why he's having so many problems, why he's not relevant. I think he just doesn't have a lot of mobility, and we're just in like a very mobile meta. It just feels like he's probably really easy to gank. And if you just want to play like a lane bully, just play Darius or something, or a pusher, just play like Singe. I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't have a real good niche. If you could control the minions somehow a little bit better, maybe if you want like a minion champion, that, you know, like a Warlock kind of champion. I don't know, but right now I just think he's probably still going to be irrelevant. I don't know what they fixed with Jhin. It now overrides Stormrazor, so what? Jhin was supposed to be too strong with his fourth shot plus Stormrazors? Is that what they're telling me? I don't know. I think Jin's pretty weak right now overall, but that's interesting. Allied shields. So I have a whole video about this. I'm not going to go into the whole thing right now just because I have a video that you can watch about this. Just watch like the first 20 minutes of my 8.12 PB video. I explain what's going on with shields, like why they're doing it, why I think it's a good idea to start with, but I hope they don't overdo it. So, I mean, the TLDR is that shields are... So watch the whole video, once again, for the full explanation, but the quick explanation is that shields historically have been too strong because they scale with resistances and they aren't reduced by grievous wounds. So if you didn't know this, like a Janna shield, if she shields somebody for like 200, just to make a nice easy round number, shield somebody for 200 and then they have 100 armor, it takes 400 physical damage to break that shield, not 200, because it treats the shield as though it's health in terms of armor. But if somebody has something like an Executioner's Calling, which reduces healing by 40%, it doesn't affect shields. So it benefits from the scaling of resistances, but yet it doesn't get reduced by the grievous wounds. And so that's what makes it very difficult to balance the shields. And then the other thing that's really has been pretty toxic about shields, and this comes from someone who has played a lot of Janna, a lot on this channel. You know, I played almost 700 games of Janna last season, and then, you know, in Season 6, I played a lot of her too, several hundred games. Is the stat plus healing and shielding stacks multiplicatively with AP, and that's the issue. So, you know, if someone, let's just take an example here. Let's say Janna with her full shield of like 210. Let's say you have 100 ability power and plus 20% healing and shielding. So you would take the 210, you multiply it by the ability power. She has a 0.7 ratio on her E. So you do this times, or plus 70, so 0.7 to 100, so 210 plus 70 equals 280, and then you do an extra 20% of that because she has plus healing and shielding, because that applies to the amount after the AP scaling, not the base amount, but the amount after the scaling, so it stacks multiplicatively. So multiply this times 1.2. Now you have a 336 shield, and then if the target has 100 armor, then it's going to take twice as much physical damage to kill the person, so times 2. So it's going to take 672 physical damage to break that Janna shield. And that is why shielding is too strong, is because it just has too much scaling. Because damage gets reduced by resistances, so if you're trying to deal damage to someone, you're actually dealing a lot less because of armor and magic resist. But if you're healing or shielding someone, the effective health you're giving them is a lot more because it works with resistances rather than against them. That's a really big multiplier. I've talked about this in several different videos, but that's the problem, and that's why plus healing and shielding has been too strong, especially since they introduced that stat, plus healing and shielding. Also, a lot of items, most notably Redemption and Locket, also scale with plus healing and shielding. So Redemption gets triple the value of plus healing and shielding, and then Locket Shield also works off of that. So there are just too many synergies, and like what happens when shield and heal, when shielders and healers are too strong, is that when you assemble like Ardent Sensor plus Redemption plus Mikhail's, it's just too much scaling for other champions to overcome. You know, tanks and AP champs just can't overcome that in team fights. It's just too much shielding, too much healing, and that's very frustrating for a lot of the player base out there because they just feel like you just can't counterplay that at all, right? Especially on really long shields, you know, like a 5-second Janna shield, you're not going to be able to wait that out. You know, you're just going to have to try to break through it. And so what their philosophy has been with a lot of these champions is to lower the duration of the shield. You know, so instead of 2.5 seconds or 6 seconds, 2.5. I'll tell you right now, in most fights, that shield's going to break in under 2.5 seconds anyways. No one's just going to sit there when you put your shield on the fighter that's trying to dive their backline. You put the shield on them, they're not going to sit there and wait 2.5 seconds, right? So in most team fights, this is not going to matter on most of these champions because it's going to break faster than that anyways. It's only going to matter a lot in the laning phase where, you know, you're not fighting, there's like a very small skirmish going on, and maybe you can bait out the shield, you auto-attack somebody, bait the shield out, and then you can wait the 2.5 seconds and then go for your real trade after the shield goes down. That's when it's really going to matter, is like top-end play when you're trying to bait the shield with autos. But like in real team fights and just real fights, real all-ins most of the time, that shield's going to get broken, whether it's, you know, 6 seconds or 2.5 seconds. It's going to get broken like real quickly a lot of the time. So I think that's good. The only time where this might be like irrelevant or like where this might come into play is like if they're stacking a lot of shields. So if like, you know, Karma hands somebody like a, you know, a 500 shield, and then it's a Kaisa and she also dashes in and gets her shield, and then she gets shielded by Ivern or something, if she has like 2,000 shield, then it might matter. But like under most game circumstances, this really isn't going to matter that much, especially for Orianna, Lulu, and Karma. It's not going to matter that much. Janna is a little bit of a different case, and the reason for that is because Eye of the Storm comes with bonus AD. So the thing that they did with Janna is now it decays, so she starts losing her shield. And I don't know what the decay rate is, But by the time 2.5 seconds rolls around, what it would be with these people, it's probably a lot lower. I don't know how that works either, like, if it decays of what's remaining, or if they've already broken half of the shield, maybe it doesn't decay at a certain rate or whatever. But this is bad news bears for Janna, because any, like, tinkering with her shield, because, like, part of her big damage is keeping that shield up so people get that bonus AD. And Janna's already kind of fallen off a little bit in this meta just because it's so fast and her, like, beginning shield is on an 18-second cooldown. And that's so much slower than most other shields out there. Like, Lulu gets 10 seconds, like, at level 1. And Karma's, like, 8 seconds at level 1, I think. So, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. I don't think this is going to completely knock her out of viability, but I think it's going to definitely knock her down to tier 2. Because she needs plus healing and shielding. She can't get Zeke's, you know, because she blows people back. She does not want to engage. She wants to disengage. So she doesn't have alternative build paths, really. She has to get the plus healing and shielding items. She can't get Zeke. She can't get Knight's Vow. She can get the new Athenes, which we'll talk about here in a second, but it's not going to be that great with her, probably, because she only has one ability that she uses that does damage, which is her W. She can use her Tornado for damage, but realistically, it's you just put 1 point of that and use it to shield. So, she's not going to be good with Athenes. She's not good with Zeke. She has to build, you know, Redemption, Ardent Censer, and Mikhail's pretty much every game. Maybe Locket in there, you know, could be sprinkled in there. So, the fact that they're nerfing all of these items, she's going to lose 9% of her plus healing and shielding if she gets Mikhail's, Redemption, and Ardent Censer, because she needs all 3 of those. In addition to her shield decay, in addition to the meta being very fast right now, and her vulnerability to all ends early game, I think she's definitely going to have some trouble. The Karma and Lulu changes probably aren't going to matter. These champs really aren't played bot lane that much. They're played more in the mid lane, so this could help out a little bit with that. I don't think it's going to impact them that much. Orianna, I don't even know why Orianna got dinged with this, but I don't think it's going to matter. Now, the Forbidden Idol nerf is actually pretty huge. So they're taking away 3% plus healing and shielding, which is worth, you know, like, around 100 gold, give or take, probably a little bit more in gold value, and they're taking off 5% cooldown reduction, which is worth another, like, 150 gold. And so, you know, you're looking at, this item was already only cost efficient. It was already just barely cost efficient, and now I'm pretty sure it's going to be, like, you're paying 800 gold to get, like, 600 gold worth of stats or something. I didn't look at the exact numbers, but... Let me see if this is updated here. Yeah. Huh. Okay, never mind. I guess it is gold efficient then. Yeah, because the 50% base mana regen is 250. Wow, is shield and heal power worth that much for real? Oh, it's because this is the item upon which they base plus healing and shielding power. That's why it looks like it's cost efficient at 800. But basically what they did is they just redid the math, because it used to only be like 35 gold value, and now they're saying, well, now that they've changed it, it's like an 80 gold value. Pretty much, like an 82 gold value for that stat now. So it's kind of like what they did with Brawler's Gloves. It's like, it still looks like it's cost efficient because they changed the value on crit. Because that was the item upon which Critical Strike was valued, right? Okay, so basically, like, effectively you lost somewhere around, like, 150 gold. It's like 50 gold extra now for 1% of plus healing and shielding. You lost 3 of it, so you're, like, losing 150 gold, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is really important when it's, like, your first buy as a support. Like, that's a pretty big hit. It doesn't make it unbuyable, it's just, like, it definitely feels a bit rougher. So, you know, this is going to be... But once you get to Ardent Censer, you're only losing 2% on that. Ardent Censer has so many other bonuses and perks to it, it's fine. So I think this is going to hit people that get the entire line. It's going to hit them pretty hard. The people who lose the 9% plus healing and shielding. But for people who like just want to get Ardent Censer, for example, or maybe they just want to get Redemption and move on and get something else, I think it'll probably be fine. I don't think it's a huge deal. So like Rakan can still get Ardent Censer if he wants to. He can go Zeke's Ardent. I don't think that's going to be a big deal because Ardent Censer is already so so valuable anyways for these stats that it puts in. Yeah, I mean, the base value on the thing with the 8% movement speed or whatever is still 2,800 gold. You're paying 2,300 for 2,800 base value. And then, you know, ally buff. One ally plus the caster buffed gives you 5304 value. Ally buff. That's for the 20 on hit. For both of them. Anyway, it's like insanely valuable, right? It gets up to somewhere like 393% efficient. So yeah, it's that can afford to lose 2% fine. I mean, the hardest hit item is going to be Mikhail's, but that's a pretty rare item on a lot of champs anyways that are popular right now. So overall, I don't think it's going to hurt plus healing and shielding that much. It's going to hurt Janna a little bit. It's going to hurt like Soraka a little bit. Soraka is kind of over the line right now anyways, and a lot of solo queue play, so that's fine. So I think that's fine. So now they're changing Athene's Unholy Grail as well to do 35% pre-mitigation damage. This is actually pretty sweet. And remember that Athene scales off of how much mana regen you have and not necessarily your plus healing and shielding. So it is a good combination with Redemption. But it doesn't have to be. It can just be with other, you know, mana regen items out there. Or even just itself. I mean, it's pretty good. If we look at the new Athene's Unholy Grail, 20 ability power. It was basically 114% efficient, and now you're getting 35% conversion rate. Now, that's difficult to calculate up exactly what that means. But on champions that can do some pretty consistent damage in fights, so like Nami, I mean, obviously Sona has always gotten this, so Sona's a big one. Nami could be good with this. Lulu could be good with this. I mean, it's pretty much a 2,100 gold item that comes in with 5 ability power per 25. It's like 50 ability power, 10% cooldown reduction, 30 magic resist, and 100% base mana regen. I mean, that's pretty legit for 2,100. That also has this little side project, and then if you get other items with it, then it can be pretty strong. So I think, I don't know if that's going to be like super meta warping, but it could be interesting, and there could be some, you know, champions that just want to go like Ardent Censer Athenes in some matchups, and that would be a really good combination. That'd be a lot of AP. You know, the 50% mana regen off of Ardent Censer would give you another 10 AP on this item, and so if you got both of those items combined, you'd get 120 AP with all these different you know, bonuses going on. So I think that could be pretty legit. You know, it even combos now with Shirelia's Reverie, so you could go Shirelia's and Athene's if you want, because now this has the 100% mana regen on it. And that would give you, you know, an extra 20 ability power value. That's like a 400 gold value off of that. So it's interesting. I don't think it's going to be meta warping. I don't think everybody's going to get it, but I think that it's a nice touch for some of the more aggressive read, like non-Janna, pretty much enchanters, to try to give them some compensation. So it could be quite a bit of healing. We'll have to see. I mean, Sona would be like the real. If this is overpowered, it would definitely be overpowered on Sona. So I think we'll see. That could be quite a lot. I mean, if you hit somebody, basically like what it's going to come down to is if you like power chord somebody and auto attack, and you know the power chord hits 2 people, the auto hits somebody else. You know, that might be 300 damage. You get 35% pre-mitigation. That's 105 extra heal whenever you do it. So you just press power chord, it does 300 damage, and you heal whoever you heal for an extra 105. That's a lot of extra healing. Now it's pre-mitigation too, so that's before magic resist comes into effect or before armor. So I think that specifically on Sona, maybe Nami, this could be pretty good. Like, I could see a world where Nami gets something like Ardent Censor, Athene's Unholy Grail, Zeke's, or something like that, maybe. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Banner of Command getting removed. Whatever. I know some people will be really mad about this. Some people won't care. I mean, nobody cared about Banner for years and years, and now all of a sudden everybody cares because it's been overpowered for a little bit. I wish they would have something that has macro value to it and not just make everything a teamfight item. But it is kind of difficult to balance. I think ZZ Rot Portal is a lot more interesting of an option. But they've nerfed that a lot too. And the reason that I think ZZ Rot, they should turn ZZ Rot into kind of the new banner, is because you have to sit there and babysit the ZZ Rot. Like, they can easily just go up and kill it. I mean, I guess the same can be true of Banner, but like, the real abuse cases of Banner, particularly in the pro scene, are when you banner up a super minion and use that to siege, so you run in with the super and it does a lot of extra damage and has more power. Or not like a super minion, but like a Baroned up minion is what I mean to say. So Baron buff plus Banner buff. I think they could have just said those don't stack. Like, you can't banner a Baron minion, and that might help. But I guess they're tired of messing with it. I don't know. But I think that's where the problem comes in, is when you get all these multipliers. Whereas like ZZ Rot Portal, even just not Baroned up minions, you just, you know, banner up like a cannon minion and walk in with it. It's so difficult to kill, whereas something like ZZ Rot applies incremental slow pressure to towers, potentially, and you can come out and kill the ZZ Rot Portal to try to stop it. So it's just a much slower item that can force more interaction with people during sieges. So I think that's a much cleaner item. It also can't, like, push an entire wave out a side lane really easily. Although, I don't know, maybe that should be a thing. Like, I think maybe they just need to decide on, should the item push minions, or should it do a lot of damage to towers, and not have one that does both, potentially. But ZZ Rot's too expensive, and you pay a lot for the stats, and it's really stat inefficient. So I don't recommend currently buying ZZ Rot on most champions to try to substitute for Banner. I just don't think it's going to work. But I wish they would balance ZZ Rot to be an item for supports like Banner. See, right now it's just too expensive at 2,100 gold or 2,700 gold. It is, I mean, it is cost efficient when you're near a turret, but I don't know. It's only 120-second cooldown. I just don't think so. It's a lot of stats. I mean, this is nice, but I really wish they would just like knock off, you know, 10 armor and 10 magic resist. That would take off like 200 gold, like 480 gold worth of value, and just make it a you know, 2,300 gold item. That's what I would like to see. Just knock off some value, you know, for maybe, if you want to make it less gold efficient, 500 gold value off of the armor and magic resist. Just make it like 45 or something, and then just give it the active, and I think that would be cool. But that's not what they did. So they got rid of Banner. There's not a viable push item anymore. I think it'll be okay. I don't think it's going to warp the meta that much. I don't think some champions are going to all of a sudden become like invalidated because Banner doesn't exist. I mean, maybe like Scion will have a harder time. Singed has lots of other options. He didn't even get this as part of his core build. I think it'll be fine. Sterrak's Gauge. I haven't run all the numbers on this one, but this is simultaneously a nerf to Trinity Force users and a buff to everyone else that might want another like another defensive item. So I like it. I think overall it's good. You know, this would allow you to go like Black Cleaver potentially and still have Sterrak's for the bonus damage there. So that'll allow more Cleaver users. People that want to get like Essence Reaver might like this, like Renekton. You know, there are several champs that would potentially like this. So I think overall it's good. It's healthier. It's easier to understand in the game. And I think this will make this item more viable on a lot of supports, while also toning down Irelia, Jax, and these other champions that are just overpowered with that combination of Trinity Sterrak's. So Overall good. Buff for a lot of champions, nerf to a few. Sure, Maul got changed, whatever. Presence of mind. Okay, whatever. Not going to matter. It's a very niche rune. Now, this is going to matter in the sense that I don't think a lot of people are going to take this anymore. It's a hidden power rune. Basically, like, everybody that goes into sorcery or whatever takes this rune. But, like, nobody has to have this rune in order to be viable or to exist with certain builds. It's just like the standard you just kind of take because it gives 3% movement speed. Now, some people are saying, oh my gosh, this is a crazy buff. I really don't think so. 16% of your bonus movement speed as bonus stats. Like, you activate Shirelia's with Janna or something, and maybe you get 32 extra AP until you press your W. I just don't think that matters that much. People aren't picking this for, like, the extra AD or AP that you get. The numbers are just so low. It's not going to matter most of the time. Like, you're picking this for the extra 3% movement speed, which is a lot. I mean, you used to have to get multiple Quint runes if you wanted that. So I think people will move away from this and they'll move towards Overcharger, which I think is a lot more interesting. Potentially, it gives you the 10% CDR, and then it also, every 10% CDR that you have beyond the cap translates into something else. It's 20. Or they might go for the damage dealing one. I forgot what it's called on certain champs, but I think this will diversify that particular tree a bit more, which is probably a good thing. And then Hail of Blades is still going to be bad most of the time. I don't think that's going to matter. I just think that most champions that would want this, they're just going to be better options out there most of the time. But, you know, we might see it some, but I don't think we'll see it that much. Okay, change around a couple of these things. I didn't see bug fixes. Okay. So overall, interesting changes. I don't think this is going to shake up a lot of stuff. The one thing that could be a little bit more meta defining is, like, if Sejuani comes in bot lane, that could be really interesting. So that could be the kind of dark horse pick that I would say, like, champion that's been relatively obscure that kind of gets a new role based on this. Poppy might see a little more action based on the meta. Lee Sin will probably see some more action at top level play. Elise will probably see a bit more action. So there's some, but the biggest meta shifts are going to be with this bot, these bot lane changes that I mentioned in my alt bot video. So yeah, I think the overall biggest winners probably be Pyke, Fiddlesticks, Yasuo. I say Pyke because if people are going to start running AP stuff bottom like Mordekaiser, then Pyke becomes a lot more viable. Because now, like, one of the main things that was starving Pyke out of the meta was that there was just too much AD running around, and now that people are running AP bot lane, potentially a lot more, that makes him a lot stronger. Also, Bruiser's bot are a lot better than things poking him out. So if he doesn't have to worry about Sona poking him out as much in lane, if he just gets to have a bunch of Bruisers bot lane, then maybe he becomes a little bit better. People are also getting better on Pyke overall. And games are just getting a lot messier. There are a lot more deaths overall, which is really good for Pyke as well, because that's more opportunities for him to get kills. So I think that Pyke is becoming pretty good. And, you know, after seeing good Pykes more and playing with him a little bit more, like, he does have quite a lot of mobility and escape. So he is actually pretty safe in a Clown Fiesta world. So I'm not ready to put him at, like, tier 1, but I think you could maybe put him at somewhere in tier 2. Maybe bottom of tier 2, maybe midway through tier 2. So I could see him. Interesting. Fiddle's picking up a lot of steam too, especially now that we have more of these, like, hardcore all-in bots. Now when he ults and fears somebody, you can actually go in and kill them at level 6 if you have, like, a Yasuo with you, or you have an Irelia or something like that. You can actually secure these kills. Whereas, you know, if you had, like, a Caitlyn on your team or something, or a Jinx early on, they weren't going to do enough damage to really help you out with that. So I think something like Fiddlesticks is interesting because he offers a lot of AP damage, he has good engage, and he has pretty good poke early on. So Fiddle's gaining some traction. Fiddle's also pretty good against a lot of assassins, and then specifically some of these high mobility supports like Rakan. Fiddle's very good into Rakan, he's good into Pyke. So I think we'll continue to see some more Fiddle. And then Yasuo is definitely picking up steam a lot too. He's getting played in the mid lane more. He's getting played in the bot lane a lot now. So he did get nerfed with the crit nerfs, but a lot of changes to the bot lane are making him a little bit more viable down there, so we'll see. I think the biggest losers on this patch are probably Janna, Soraka, Caitlyn. Caitlyn's going to continue to lose because not only because of the crit nerfs, but because the supports that are best with her, specifically Janna, and a lot of the other enchanters got nerfed a little bit. Janna specifically is going to get hit. She's just not very good early game, and the scaling is a lot worse because she has to get those 3 enchanter items, and of course her shield itself got nerfed. So Janna's probably going to fall quite a bit. And then Soraka is going to lose quite a bit too because she has to get the triple healing. I mean, I guess you could go for like a an Athene's Ardent build on her, Redemption, and just not get the Mikhails, and maybe that would make it a little bit okay. She was already really strong, so I think Soraka will still be viable and strong. It's just like the you know, the plus healing and shielding does hurt her because she has such a strong heal. She really wants to get plus healing and shielding, so that'll be interesting. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the other tier list that I'm going to release, and be sure to check out my alt bot vid, which should be on the channel by the time this comes up. And thanks. Have a good day. I'll see you next time.